5, 4, 3, 2, 1, décollage! Attention, tu le fais avec moi, d'accord? T'es prête? Oui. 10.
Is very proud through its partnership project, like the one with the satellite manufacturer Airbus, to support the space industry in Europe to foster innovation and succeed in the highly competitive global telecommunication market. 8 satellites have already been sold by Airbus, with the option for a 9th. Thanks to the European Space Agency Eurostar NEO partnership project, the satellite will be used in high-speed internet connection and advanced mobility communication, as well as television broadcasting. Investing in space today creates jobs and prosperity in Europe and improve life on Earth.
Now that we know a little more about the mission tonight, let's turn our attention to the rocket there on your screen. That's a live view of our Falcon 9 rocket set to launch Eutelsat's HOTBIRD 13F satellite from Slip 40. Starting at the bottom of the rocket, that was just a call-out indicating that the fuel loading on stage 1 is complete. Now, starting at the bottom of the rocket, we have our 9 M1D engines connected to the first stage, also the largest part of our rocket. These 9 engines help accelerate the vehicle through the thickest part of the Earth's atmosphere and into space. Our first stage, also referred to as the booster, is flying for the 3rd time tonight, having previously supported a Starlink mission and CRS-24, a cargo resupply mission to the International Space Station. Above the first stage is the second stage, which has a single Merlin vacuum or MVAC engine, and that ignites after the first stage separates. The second stage is what will carry the Eutelsat HOTBIRD 13F satellite into orbit. And at the very top of the rocket, you'll see a large barrel structure with the pointed nose on top of the second stage. That's our payload fairing. The Eutelsat HOTBIRD 13F satellite is currently safely enclosed inside that 17-foot diameter fairing. The fairing is made up of 2 carbon composite halves and protects satellites on their way to orbit and will be jettisoned or separated around 3 minutes into flight. The fairing halves that make up the fairing that we are using today are both flying for the 4th time on this mission, with liftoff currently at just under 5 minutes from now. We're waiting for the retraction of the TE or transport.
Allez, bonjour à tous. Alors, Tomo, c'est sûrement pas bonjour, mais en tout cas, bienvenue à tous. J'espère que vous n'êtes pas trop fatigués. Le décollage, du coup, qui a été décalé à aujourd'hui, donc 7h du matin.
0, ground withdrawal existing to 12. Starting at the bottom of the rocket, you'll see a large barrel structure with the pointed nose on top of the second stage. That's our payload fairing. The Eutelsat HOTBIRD 13F satellite is currently safely enclosed inside that 17-foot diameter fairing. The fairing is made up of 2 carbon composite halves and protects satellites on their way to orbit and will be jettisoned or separated around 3 minutes into flight. The fairing halves that make up the fairing that we are using today are both flying for the 4th time on this mission, with liftoff currently at just under 5 minutes from now. We're waiting for the retraction of the TE or transport.
Hop là, me voilà. Donc oui, comme je disais, décollage qui a été décalé aujourd'hui à 7 heures du matin. Tout simplement, bah écoutez, lancement pour le satellite de communication géostationnaire Eutelsat, construit donc du coup par Airbus Defence and Space. C'est pas la première fois hein, qu'on fait un lancement comme ça. SpaceX, comme vous le savez, qui continue les lancements privés, donc décollage maintenant dans 4 minutes. Plein après-midi pour Tomo, non, pour nous il est 7 heures. Allez, c'est parti.
Pounds of kerosene fuel and liquid oxygen. Both the first and second stages are underway with their LOX load. Kerosene loading is complete on both stages, but that first stage will wrap up here in just about 20 seconds, and the second stage will wrap up its LOX load at T-minus 2 minutes.
Ça va Tomo, tu t'es bien reposé?
The white clouds that we're seeing a little bit around the vehicle is actually the chilled gas that sits above the liquid oxygen tank liquid surface inside the tank.
LOX load complete.
All right, there's that call indicating that that liquid oxygen is now fully loaded onto stage 1. That gaseous chilled gas above the LOX tank liquid surface, we vent that overboard to maintain the internal tank pressure as needed.
Allez, décollage dans moins de 3 minutes maintenant.
So the next call out that we'll hear at T-minus 2 minutes is
Alors pour le coup, je suppose que SpaceX nous fera la mission jusqu'au bout. Vu que c'est pas du Starlink et c'est du privé, on va voir. Moi je pense qu'ils vont nous le faire jusqu'au bout.
And then just inside T-minus 2 seconds, we'll light those 9 Merlin 1D engines for liftoff. The HOTBIRD 13F satellite continues to be healthy.
Allez, 2 petites minutes avant le décollage.
Weather is looking great and the range is green, ready to support launch. And we're standing by for completion of LOX load on the second stage.
Stage 2, LOX load complete.
And there's that call out indicating now that Falcon 9 is completely loaded with all of its liquid propellants, liquid kerosene, and liquid oxygen. The venting that we see from the vehicle, as I mentioned before, totally normal. So it's that gaseous...
Gas launch closeout.
All right, the next call out that we'll hear is that Falcon 9 is in startup. We'll hear that at T-minus 1 minute. And at that point in time, both the first and second stages...
Allez, on va rentrer dans la dernière minute. Écoutez, comme d'habitude, on va mettre le son au maximum. Et puis bah, je vous laisse profiter en tout cas de ce décollage aujourd'hui. Donc bah, bon après-midi à Tomo, bon réveil à Aigle.
Computers have taken control of the launch countdown.
Go for launch.
And there was our final go for launch from SpaceX launch director. So at this point in time, as we approach T-minus 35 seconds, all systems are go for launch of Falcon 9 with Eutelsat's HOTBIRD 13F payload.
30 seconds.
Allez, décollage
T-minus
dans
15
15
seconds.
secondes. On vous rappelle encore une fois que c'est
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6,
C'est parti.
5,
3, 2, 1.
1. Engines full power and ignition. Lift off of Falcon 9. Go HOTBIRD, go Falcon.
Bah écoutez, très bon décollage pour l'instant. On est carrément aveuglé par les flammes. C'est plutôt sympa, c'est pas courant. Enfin, en tout cas, on n'a plus eu l'habitude. Aigle.
Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from pad 40 at Cape Canaveral Space
Allez, on va
Force
bientôt
Station,
rentrer
carrying the
dans la zone de
Eutelsat
pression
Onward
maximale.
15F satellite. During ascent, the
Pendant ce temps-là, on
MOD
peut
engines
voir
will
la
actually
fusée qui
swivel and
traverse les
help
nuages et
steer
il fait pas
Falcon
très
9,
beau hein,
this
pour
time
l'instant
as
aux
it will.
États-Unis apparemment.
The rocket autonomously tilts the engines just a few degrees, and this gimbaling allows the vehicle to perform a gravity turn, which is when we go vertical as well as horizontal. So we're still going up, but now we're also heading horizontally away from the launch pad.
Allez, on y est dans cette zone.
And there we heard the call out for maximum aerodynamic pressure. So now we'll throttle those 9 M1D engines back up. In about a minute, we'll have 3 events occurring in quick succession. The first will be main engine cutoff, or MECO, as it's seen there on the timeline at the bottom of your screen. MECO will be followed immediately by stage separation, which, as the name indicates, the first stage and second stage will separate.
Allez.
And then the second engine, that Merlin vacuum engine, will ignite for SES-1, or second engine start 1.
On va bientôt du coup, comme d'habitude, hein, arriver à MECO, à la séparation du premier étage. Séparation qui devrait arriver dans quelques secondes maintenant. On va du coup basculer sur la caméra embarquée à l'intérieur. Attention, c'est parti pour MECO, du coup, séparation du premier étage. C'est parti. Et comme d'habitude, séparation réussie.
And there you can see that MVAC has ignited, that nozzle turning orange and white. Those 3 events happening rapidly. The first stage there on the left-hand side of your screen and the right-hand side for the second stage.
Both vehicles are following nominal trajectories.
Next major event is fairing separation, occurring in about 10 seconds. We can see the Space Coast in the distance background of the left-hand side of the screen.
Fairing separation confirmed.
Séparation de la coiffe maintenant.
And there's our first look
Et
at the
on voit
Eutelsat
apparaître le
HOTBIRD
satellite
13F
Eutelsat.
payload. Now those fairing halves that we just separated, we will be attempting to retrieve them again once they fall back to planet Earth. We'll be using our recovery ship Doug to do so.
Allez, du coup maintenant on va patienter jusqu'au retour de ce booster dans l'atmosphère qui devrait arriver dans les 3 minutes qui arrivent.
We're at T+4 minutes into tonight's mission, and we're currently in the first of 2 planned MVAC burns prior to satellite deployment. The next event, first stage entry burn, will occur at about T+6.5 minutes, and you should be able to see it on your screen. For that entry burn, we'll relight 3 M1D engines, starting with the center one, engine 9, followed shortly thereafter by E1 and E5, which are 2 of the 8 radial engines. That burn is the first of 2 planned burns, and we'll slow the vehicle down as it passes back into the Earth's
les 10 000 mètres
atmosphere.
d'altitude. Vous ne voyez pas vous pour l'instant parce que je suis devant
Stage
le
1
compteur,
has
je vais
to
décaler
slow
le son
down to reduce re-entry
un petit coup
forces,
pour que
which
vous puissiez
helps
avoir
us
le petit
to
aperçu.
recover and
Voilà.
reuse it. Now,
Ouais,
during
on
that
vient de
entry
franchir
burn,
ça.
Falcon 9 is
Où est-ce qu'on en est
decelerating by firing those Merlin engines, as I
Écoutez, on est à
mentioned,
mi-chemin
but
avant
it's
la
still
rentrée
moving
dans
rapidly.
l'atmosphère.
This causes the vehicle to fly through Merlin's exhaust gases, also called the rocket's plume.
On
As such,
continue
a
là pour le coup
thin
tout
layer of soot
doucement à
from
monter
Falcon
en
9's
altitude.
carbon-based
On
fuel,
y va
kerosene,
timidement, j'ai envie de dire, on
is
est à
deposited
peine
on the
à
exterior vehicle
165
surface.
km
Both
d'altitude.
vehicles continue to follow nominal
Donc ça va
trajectories.
monter progressivement.
Now, for those that might not be familiar with why we land our
Et là, on
rockets,
ne devrait
reusability is
plus
key to
tarder à
lowering the
basculer
cost
sur
of
la caméra
spaceflight, which
embarquée
enables
du
more
booster
investments in critical
pour
scientific
sa rentrée
research.
dans
The
l'atmosphère d'ici
Falcon 9
quelques
first
instants.
stage that's supporting today's mission will perform this entry burn for the third time. As I mentioned earlier, it previously supported a Starlink mission as well as a cargo resupply mission to the International Space
10 000,
Station,
oui.
CRS-24.
J'ai dit autre chose? C'est possible.
So we're expecting that entry burn to begin in under 20 seconds. Excuse me, under 10 seconds.
C'est possible. Allez. On vient d'atteindre les 16 000 km/h pour l'instant. Et la rentrée dans l'atmosphère d'ici quelques secondes. Allez, on va changer de caméra. C'est parti.
So there on the left-hand side of your screen, you can see those 3 M1D engines have relit, the center engine and 2 radial engines. We expect this to last for another 10 seconds.
Oh, c'est possible. C'est possible. En tout cas, là, on vient d'atteindre les 20 000 km/h.
All right, we
Ouais,
heard the
ça le
call.
fait pour l'instant.
Stage 1 entry burn has concluded.
Et on devrait du coup atterrir à la barge océanique d'ici une bonne minute.
Everything continues to look nominal for the second stage there on your screen.
Both vehicles continue to follow nominal trajectories.
Good indication there that everything is on track for both the first and second stage. In about 30 seconds, we'll have the next milestone coming up. That's when we will shut down our MVAC engine, or Merlin vacuum engine, there on your screen on the second stage. And that will be followed very quickly by our landing burn.
Sûrement.
There we just heard that the first stage is traveling near the speed of sound.
Allez, on devrait bientôt rebasculer sur la caméra embarquée.
Standing by for second engine cutoff 1.
Bien entendu, on voit pas grand chose. On va voir les boosters se rallumer.
All right, we started to see that the MVAC
Là, vous le voyez
nozzle
pas,
was
hein, vous êtes
losing
sur la-
that
vous êtes
bright
sur la
white
barge.
glow, indicating we had a second
Stage 1
engine.
landing burn.
Second engine
On va
cutoff.
bientôt y
There
être.
on the left-hand
C'est
side of your
parti.
screen, you can see that the first stage has begun the landing burn.
Nominal parking orbit.
Heard good orbital insertion
C'est bon, on
there
l'aperçoit.
for the second stage.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
Eh ben écoutez, pile poil sur la
Stage
cible.
1 landing confirmed.
And there you have it. That landing marks SpaceX's 100th recovery of an orbital class rocket, including first stage landings for Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy. Now, the mission isn't over just yet. The second stage is now embarking
J'aime bien qu'elle ait un petit coup.
coast phase. After the coast phase, we'll light that MVAC engine for a second time around T plus 29 minutes. So hang tight, we'll see you back here in about 20 minutes.
Bon bah maintenant jusqu'à la mise en orbite, il va se passer un tout petit moment. On n'y est pas encore. D'ailleurs, il n'apparaît absolument pas sur la timeline. Ça y est. Ça y est, ça y est. Encore une réussite, exactement règle. Bah écoutez, un petit lancement matinal, plutôt sympa. Plutôt sympa comme d'habitude. Je pense à Aigle qui a mis son petit réveil pour être avec nous. 5h du matin, ça a dû piquer un peu. Malheureusement, il n'y avait rien. Allez, on est parti du coup pour la mise en orbite géostationnaire. Ça va prendre un petit moment comme vous pouvez le voir sur votre écran. Donc moi pour le coup je vais couper la caméra. Je vais vous laisser le direct. Et puis on se retrouve d'ici quelques minutes pour la mise en orbite. Allez, à tout de suite.
Welcome back to the webcast of the Falcon 9 mission carrying the HOTBIRD 13F satellite for our customer Eutelsat. We've had a nominal mission so far. Falcon 9 launched on time at 1:22 a.m. Eastern Time from Space Launch Complex 40. We successfully recovered the first stage on our drone ship just by the instructions for the third time, and the second stage it completed its first burn of the Merlin vacuum engine. And we're just about 5 seconds away from the second ignition of that MVAC engine.
MVAC startup.
All right, there we can see that has begun, where this burn is planned to last about 1 minute, and it will carry the second stage and the HOTBIRD 13F payload into the orbit needed to deploy the satellite. We can see that orange glow beginning to develop again on the MVAC nozzle. About halfway through this second stage burn. Another 15 seconds remaining in this second engine burn.
MVAC shutdown.
And there we heard call out that we had good shutdown of that second engine start, or excuse me, for that second engine cutoff.
Nominal deploy orbit.
All right, there we just heard confirmation that we were able to place it in a good orbit. Now, for those of you that might have only just recently joined us, we had a successful liftoff, as well as a successful first stage landing and two second stage burns, with the second one just concluding there moments ago. As a reminder, today's launch is for our customer Eutelsat, and we're sending their HOTBIRD 13F satellite into space.
And acquisition signal HBK.
This evening's launch marked SpaceX's 185th overall mission, as well as our 99th launch from Space Launch Complex 40, our 140th Falcon 9 first stage landing, and our 40th landing on our drone ship. Just read the instructions. So at this point in time, everything is looking good for the second stage. We have completed the 2 burns for that MVAC engine, and that's a view there of the HOTBIRD 13F satellite. It is still attached to the second stage. We're currently in a smaller coast phase now that that second engine has been cut off for the second time. Again, that concludes the second and final burn that the MVAC engine will execute. There we can see that HOTBIRD 13F satellite still attached to Falcon 9's second stage and is set to deploy in just under 3.5 minutes. Now, while we wait on that deployment, here's some more information about HOTBIRD 13F from the satellite manufacturer Airbus.
HOTBIRD 13F is the first satellite based on the new Airbus Eurostar Neo platform.
I would like to celebrate through this HOTBIRD 13F launch our long relationship with Eutelsat that is going to fly our first Eurostar Neo, as they have already flown our first Eurostar 3000, our first Eurostar 3000 full electrical.
The collaboration with Airbus is a very long-term partnership. Airbus has built for us the satellite HOTBIRD 13F, which is going to replace an aging satellite at 13 degrees east, which is a key position for the Eutelsat group.
HOTBIRD 13F enhances Eutelsat's ability to serve its 135 million customers across Europe, Northern Africa and the Middle East.
I would like also to thank the EDA and all the national agencies for their support for the development. It's already another 7 satellites which are under construction. Thanks to that, it's all the suppliers and partners of Europe that are involved in those programs.
HOTBIRD 13F and 13G both have payloads of more than 2 tons, but a launch mass of only 4,500 kilograms. With a spacecraft power of 22 kilowatts, they are paving the way to a new era of spacecraft.
We're absolutely thrilled to see this innovative platform, which is the Eurostar Neo, which will fly for the first time, being operated soon by the Eutelsat fleet.
Welcome to the age of Eurostar Neo.
To echo some of the topics covered in that video, Eutelsat HOTBIRD 13F is the first of 2 satellites to be placed at Eutelsat's flagship 13-degree east position to replace 3 existing satellites. With a fleet of 36 satellites, located in geostationary orbit from 139 degrees west to 174 degrees east, Eutelsat's high-performance satellites serve a solid client base of broadcasters, telecom operators, aviation and maritime companies, and government agencies from across the globe. HOTBIRD 13F is the first satellite based on the electrical propulsion Eurostar Neo platform, fostering innovation and competitiveness in the European space industry. Now, as far as the mission, we had an on-time liftoff at 1:22 a.m. Eastern Time, followed by successful ascent, stage separation, first stage landing, and 2 second stage engine burns. As a reminder, Eutelsat is a world-leading satellite operator in a footprint covering Europe, Africa, the Middle East, Asia, and the Americas.
Payload separation confirmed.
And there you see it on your screen. Payload separation confirmed for the HOTBIRD 13F payload. And with confirmation of successful payload deploy, we'll go ahead and end our launch webcast for tonight. All of us here at SpaceX want to give a big thank you to our customer Eutelsat for entrusting us with today's mission. We also want to give a shout out to the Range and Federal Aviation Administration for supporting today's mission. As I mentioned earlier, today's launch concludes our 185th overall mission to date and 47th launch this year.
Signal Diego Garcia.
Thanks to all of our viewers tuning in, and thank you for your continued support. Have a good night,
Acquisition signal Maldives.
and we'll see you soon.